Hi, welcome to Storymakers and our holiday special. I'm Rocco Stano, and today, a special treat. I have some of my KidLit friends with me. Let me introduce them to you. We have Jenny Brown. Jenny's with the Bank Street College of Education and Self-Awareness. And next to her, we have Susanna Richards. She's a professor at Eastern Connecticut State University. And a good colleague of mine, Luann Toth, a longtime editor at School Library Journal. So today, we are going to talk about holidays. So any particular holiday memories?
Well, holiday memories for me always revolve around food, right? So in our house, we always had a standing rib roast, and the drippings would be made into Yorkshire pudding. And then we'd have, the salads and all that. But everybody's sitting around the table. We lived in Kalamazoo. We had family from Grand Rapids and from Battle Creek, Michigan. And, we had the kids' table, of course. So that's really what I think about when I think about the holidays.
I think my holidays never really had the same tradition and kind of changed over time. But I will admit that when I was a little girl, my mom used to have to get the lights for the Rockefeller Christmas tree. It was one of her jobs, so it was always we were always a little obsessed.
You mean that big Christmas tree?
Yeah, the one that was
that's a
definitely
lot of
taller
lights.
than I am.
Yes.
So that's fun. And now I think as time has changed and our family has grown, we've moved and we kind of do a lot of different things. So it varies by year, sort of what goes on.
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, in Levittown, one of the Levittowns, yes. And we always had a big, I have 3 sisters and growing up, and we also always had a big, lovely meal on Christmas Eve before going to midnight mass and stuff. And my mother, for some reason, came up with a tradition of not 1, but 2 soups. A mushroom soup and a onion soup that my sisters and I continue to try to replicate, and each year we end up cursing out my mother. Oh, why?
And thanks for bringing this box of the current crop of holiday books. And we're going to share some of these titles with our friends. Perhaps we'll help them with their holiday gift giving.
Speaking of how much we enjoy different traditions, this one is from the Swedish tradition, and it's called The Yule Tomte and the Little Rabbits. And it is by Ulf Stark and illustrated by Eva Eriksson, published by Florist Books. And in Sweden, it is the Tomte, the Yule Tomte, who brings Christmas presents to the children. And it's traditional to leave a bowl of porridge out for the Tomte on Christmas night as a special gift to thank him. Now, this book is unique in that it is a charming story, and it is told in 25 short chapters. So you can read 1 a day for the entire month leading up to the big holiday.
Speaking of traditions, I'm invited to many Hanukkah parties, and they always bring out the dreidel. And here's a great book, no matter how old you are. It's I Know an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Dreidel by Karen Yakowitz and David Slonim. Well, we all know the song, I Know an Old Lady, but I'll just show you or read to you. I know an old lady who swallowed a dreidel. I know an old lady who swallowed a dreidel, a Hanukkah dreidel she thought was a bagel. Perhaps it's fatal. But the interesting thing is that the illustrator used many masterpieces. And here we have our old lady as Whistler's mother. And we have cans of Campbell's soup for Andy Warhol. So you probably could use this book with older kids too, and maybe even in an art class.
I'm always looking for books that I can bring to my family for the holidays that they haven't seen before. And since my aunt always asks whether or not the tamales have arrived right before we begin to set up for all the visitors for Christmas Eve, I was really kind of excited when this book came on the holiday scene this year. Twas Nochebuena, A Christmas Story in English and Spanish by Roseanne Greenfield Thong, illustrated by Sara Palacios, published by Viking, an imprint of Penguin. And what I really like about this book is that it helps us to recognize that there are all kinds of family traditions. And in the afterword, we learn that the author of this book went out looking for tamales to celebrate with her family, and she couldn't find any tamales, and she realized that she had a story to tell. And so this book, told mostly in English with spots or snippets of Spanish word, tells the story of looking for the tamales and having just a wonderful time getting ready for the celebration in a family way. And it's really nice that it is even capturing the story. And for those of us who are less familiar with some of the Spanish words, it includes a glossary that will make my reading of it this holiday season a lot easier.
Well, and you talked about preparing for Christmas, and I loved this book, Manger, with poems selected by Bennett Hopkins, illustrated by Helen Cann, and published by Eerdmans, which happens to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I love this because on Christmas Eve, we often invited friends as well as family over to do what we called our Christmas Eve program, and everyone had something they read. So for many years, my grandmother read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, and my mother read Yes, Virginia, There's a Santa Claus. But for the guests, it was really nice to find a poem that they could read, you know, that they could learn quickly and feel comfortable saying aloud. So I loved this collection because it has this beautiful artwork. And Bennett Hopkins in the first poem really sets the scene. Christmas Eve, midnight, God grants all creatures, big and small, the power of human thought or speech to welcome and comfort baby Jesus lying in a manger. And then each of the poems goes on to highlight one of the animals that we think of as being in the manger.
Well, that book may start some new family traditions. Speaking of traditions, there's that one fellow that's a big holiday or Christmas tradition. I guess his name is Santa Claus, and we have a few Santa books. Every year there's a few Santa books. So any favorites?
I have a favorite called Here Comes Santa Cat by Deborah Underwood, illustrated by Claudia Rueda. And this one's really fun because it plays with the idea of all the things we think of Santa doing, like bringing gifts and wearing certain outfits. And this cat behaves like a cat, except that the cat does hold up a little sign to tell you what he's thinking. Like he's holding up, "Here comes Santa Cat." Right here you can see just his little hat. And then the text plays with this idea. So it says, "Hey Santa, have you seen Cat?" And you see Cat kind of thinking, "Gee, wonder where he could be." And then it goes on. He kind of helps tell the story by holding up his signs. And then there's that question, you know, of Cat being only a little nice. You see that tiny sliver of pie. So he has a sad face, like maybe Santa isn't going to bring him anything. "Ah, I see your problem," says the narrator. But then, not to give too much away, but Santa does bring a gift for the cat. So it's just delightful playing with all those ideas of.
And who's the publisher of that book?
The publisher is Penguin Dial, which is an imprint of Penguin, yes.
And that was a star in SLJ.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay. And are there other books? Is this part of a series?
Yes. This is the second book to come from this team. The first one was Here Comes Easter Cat.
So
you
we
might have thought.
Easter Cat, Santa Cat. I wonder what holiday may be next for them. Do you have one?
I do. This was one of my favorites from this time, and it's called Santa Clauses, Short Poems from the North Pole. And it's by Bob Brashka, illustrated by Chuck Gronick, and published by Carol Rhoda Books. And I'm going to just read you the introduction. Santa is a man of many talents. He's a toy maker, a reindeer trainer, a sleigh pilot, and a world traveler. But did you know he was a poet? Years ago, Mrs. Claus gave him a book of haiku, a Japanese form of poetry. Each haiku is just 3 lines long, with 5 syllables in the first line, 7 in the second, and 5 in the third. Santa loved these poems. He was even inspired to write his own. Now you can peek at Santa's haiku, one for each day from December 1st to December 25th, and catch a glimpse of life at the North Pole. Hear the snow crunch, smell the gingerbread, and see a side of Santa you've never seen before. I'm just going to give you a nice little look at the artwork because it is spectacular.
I love the idea that these are so short and you could share them at breakfast really quickly.
Right.
As you
Oh,
said,
yes.
as you send a kid out the door or other things, and some of them are just so playful.
And these ones that have a selection for every day, I call that the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, I really enjoy backstories, Santa backstories, and that's why I selected John Agee's Little Santa. It tells you about Santa as a child and how he actually got into the business of being Santa Claus. And the illustrations are terrific. And here we have a little Santa, and you'd think that's a tree, but it really is a reindeer. And the nice thing about this is that you can share it with young children, but I also think it's a great to share this with older children and have them write their own Santa backstories. You know, something like, you know, how did Santa and Mrs. Claus get together?
Well, there are all kinds of other backstories about Santa and all the reindeer. And in this case, Lisa Wheeler and Brian Floca teamed up together to give us Uncles and Antlers. And even though this book has been around for 10 years, it's recently come out again, and we're really kind of happy to see it. And it is another backstory, in this case about the reindeer. It's about a little reindeer whose uncles come to visit. And it is told also with a lot of numbers. 7 uncles every year, 7 uncles travel here. Shaggy coats, scarves of red, 2 tall antlers on each head. And we go through as each uncle with his own individual characteristics comes to visit. And the fact is that we know at the very end that all of these uncles, no matter how they traveled, by ski, by roadster, or the one that is my particular favorite, the literary kind. Last of all comes Uncle Sven, a literary gentleman, writes poetry with feathered pen. And he's my smartest uncle. 7 books and 7 plays, 7 poems for 7 days. When he recites, the uncles cry. His favorite niece? Well, it is I. And they all get together and they meet their little guide for the day, of course, which we have in a little bit of Santa, and they have a little bit of an adventure as a family reunion once a year.
You said it's a reissue?
It is. It originally came out in 2004, but Atheneum, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, has brought it back out in this lovely hardcover form. So we're kind of excited about that.
And why does that name Brian Floca sound so familiar?
You know, that's an interesting question. He actually won the 2014 Caldecott Medal for locomotive. I don't know if any of you guys have this, but somebody, a family member or a friend or somebody in one of my classes says, I want a book for really young kids for the holidays. I want to bring a holiday book to family and friends. And many of you are familiar, of course, with Little Blue Truck. And this year we have a Christmas Little Blue Truck. And we see it in an oversized board book. And we are asking how many trees can Little Blue Truck carry? And we're moving through with really absolutely fabulous, inviting, outside, snowy, pre-Christmas celebratory gatherings, and it goes through counting the trees as we add all of those. And then for those little kids, we find one of those features that seems to add a little bit of delight to all of their holidays as we find a little bit of sparkle on the last tree.
Just like the trees back here, right?
Oh, and I can give a testimonial on the Little Blue Truck being popular with little boys. My nephew Asher is a big fan, and we've read it many, many times.
There are some classic Christmas stories, and I think there may be some reissues or new editions of some
Yes.
classic stories.
And this was one of the ones that, this is we were just saying a librarian's nightmare in that it doesn't fit on any size shelf, but it's bound to be a favorite. This was originally published in 1954 by the amazing Roger Duvoisin, a former Caldecott winner for the White Snow, Bright Snow. I believe that was like the 1948 Caldecott. But this is the classic story of the night before Christmas, told in just such a marvelous
The shape
way.
is conducive for the chimney.
Oh
I
yes,
think.
I was going to show you that page. Here he is coming down
there he goes.
the chimney.
Luckily, he doesn't get stuck.
Yeah. And they actually show him going right back up.
Wow.
And here he is with his...
And the publisher of that?
This is by Cann, and they brought it back. And of course, the author is Clemency Moore. This is the classic, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas.
And it's been 75 years since someone from Montgomery Ward wrote a story about a reindeer named Rudolph. And it's been reissued with great illustrations, reissued by Simon & Schuster, and the illustrations by Antonio Javier Caparo. And the illustrations of Santa are fabulous. But the story of Rudolph is more than the story of the song. So it's a great story about being bullied and overcoming bullies and being shy. So I'm sure this will be very popular because you could read this and then, watch the classic television special and then sing the song.
A tradition in the making.
This is actually, it's kind of an exciting year because it's the 25th anniversary of Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins, a book written by Eric Kimmel and illustrated by Trina Hyman and published by Holiday House. And this book won a Caldecott honor, and for me, I know it's just one of the really great fictional Hanukkah stories to share over time. And it's really great that Holiday House has put it back out in a new anniversary edition with its fabulous illustrations and its amazing storytelling.
Does anyone have a recommendation of a Kwanzaa book?
7 Candles for Kwanzaa by Andrea Davis Pinkney, illustrated by her husband, Brian Pinkney. I think that was 1993 by Dial, but it was really a lovely Kwanzaa, sharing the tradition of Kwanzaa picture book, which I believe is still in print.
I'm very impressed, Susanna. For teen or older readers, any recommendations?
One of the books that we started this year in our holiday roundup for teens was called My True Love Gave to Me, 12 Holiday Stories. And it is a short story collection by some of the biggest names in YA literature. David Levithan, Matty LaPena, Holly Black, Gail Foreman, Jenny Han, you name it. It's just a super collection, and I think teens will be very excited to see it.
So who's the publisher?
This anthology was put together by St. Martin's Griffin, a division of Macmillan, I believe. Yep.
Great. Well, it looks like there's something for everyone this holiday season. Well, thanks for being here on our first holiday special on KidLit TV. We have to start our own tradition.
Oh, happy. Wow, Rocco, I don't know. Sure.
Oh, what a pop that is. I think we need a good toast. So, ladies, I'm going to leave the toast up to you.
Oh, I don't know. What do you think, Susanna?
Wow. I think we should start with peace.
And love.
And lots of good books. Yay!
Yay! Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
You've seen me in a space helmet, now you see me in a Christmas hat. But remember, until next time, give a kid a book in any format.